All right, Mr. Schneider, let's talk about the Electoral College. All right, so the Electoral College is what is actually used to choose the president. I'll say this in class, but I'll say it here too. It's a fallacy that we have a national political election. We actually have 51. I know there's 50 states. The District of Columbia gets Electoral College votes too. There's 51 separate elections for president. So when we go to vote in Virginia, we're actually electing who our 13 electors are going to vote for. We'll talk in a minute how those electors are chosen, and we'll talk about how we determine how many electors each state has. Okay.
Counted with the rest of the votes in the country, and then get sent off to the Electoral College. What's that? The Electoral College are a bunch of officials who do the voting for us. So in case we elect the wrong person, they can fix their shits. Whoa, hold up. Who the hell are these people? Well, no one knows for sure, but whoever they is, they the folks who actually do the real voting after we do our pretend vote. Yeah, power to the people. Hold the on. You're telling me our votes don't matter? Our votes are like suggestions. So this November we should, do the vote!
And that's how a lot of people feel about the Electoral College. So the electors meet to vote. So we vote in November in the general election. Those results are tabulated, and then the electors meet in December to actually cast votes for the president and vice president. And here's an example of, I think this is in Rhode Island, an Electoral College meeting.
That's it.
This meeting of Rhode Island Electoral College. In a few minutes, the state's 4 presidential electeds will cast votes for president and vice president in a tradition that is more than 200 years old. This ceremony today dates back to the earliest days of our country. By federal law, electors representing the political party of the candidate who wins the popular vote for president in each state officially elect the president and vice president by casting votes on the first Monday after the second Wednesday in December. Democrat Barack Obama and his vice presidential running mate Joe Biden outpaced candidates from 6 other parties to win Rhode Island in November's election. Selected by the state Democratic Party, Rhode Island's presidential electors are the Honorable Marvin Abney, the Honorable Emily Morangian, the Honorable Susan Weiner, and the Honorable Mark Weiner.
It is with great honor and pleasure that I place in nomination the name of Barack Obama of Illinois for President of the United States.
So most states have a winner-take-all system where if you win that state, so if you win Virginia, you get all 13 of the Electoral College states votes. If you win Pennsylvania, you get all 20. There are, however, 2 states that do not have winner-take-all votes. Those are Maine and Nebraska. So let's look at those for a moment.
At this point, the election looks like it could be closer than the head and the tail on a very old, worn-down dime. Last time we did this as a country in 2008, the election was not close. Barack Obama won handily. He won by a lot. And he basically won everywhere it's conceivable a Democrat might win. He won Indiana, which no Democrat had won in my lifetime. Barack Obama surged into office on just a tide of brilliant blue. So how come the map from that election looks so red? I mean, from Houston, Texas to Bismarck, North Dakota, over to Sandpoint, Idaho, all the way back to St. Mary's, Georgia. When the Democrats won overall and won big, the map really looks still quite red. Why is that? It's because the giant middle of our giant country is filled with giant states that are not at all that densely filled with people. I mean, no offense to Wyoming and Montana and Nebraska, but relatively speaking, you have a lot of land with not many people on that land. And that's a feature, not a bug, right? Your emptiness makes you beautiful and great, but we don't vote by acreage in this country. We vote by human. And so a big, giant state like Wyoming gets just 3 votes in the Electoral College. Montana gets 3 votes. Nebraska, a measly 5 votes. In electoral politics, one relatively crowded Indiana is worth as much as relatively empty Wyoming, Montana, and Nebraska all combined. But if you look a little closer at the sea of red from the 2008 election, look at the results map from when President Obama won last time, and you'll notice that in the big sea of red in the middle of the country, there was one blue dot inside Nebraska. Barack Obama won that little blue dot. Nebraska is one of only 2 states in the country that don't just give all their electoral votes on a statewide basis. They divide their electoral votes by congressional district. And in 2008, in the middle of what we think of as big, empty, red state Nebraska, it was Barack Obama who specifically won Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. So he won that single electoral vote. Basically, Omaha, Nebraska was a blue dot. Because President Obama won such an overwhelming victory in 2008, because he beat John McCain so badly, that little blue dot in big Nebraska ended up being just sort of interesting trivia about the election. That one electoral vote was not decisive, right? But check this out. The other state besides Nebraska that does not just award its electoral votes as a whole state, the other state that splits them up by district is the state of Maine. And Maine has gone all blue in the last 5 presidential elections. But this year, a pro-Mitt Romney super PAC is buying a nice chunk of airtime in Maine for pro-Mitt Romney ads, including in the one congressional district in the state where Mitt Romney might maybe conceivably have a chance. And yeah, maybe the Romney super PAC is really buying ads in Maine just so they'll get seen next door in swing state New Hampshire. But maybe the race really is so close that a single red dot in Maine could make a difference for Mitt Romney. Maybe this election will be historically close. One electoral vote close. Epically close. So close we have to dive way down into the Nebraska and Maine congressional district maps. So close that we have to memorize the innards and the sub-innards of the 12th Amendment to the Constitution in order to figure out who wins. The polls are close enough that campaigning for individual electoral votes is now happening. And there's a lot of money behind it. And the surprising news of what happens if there is a tie is all of a sudden very relevant to those of us who are paying close attention to this election. The news about a potential tie is coming up.
All right. So a lot of candidates target a lot of large states. But they have to pay attention to the smaller states, especially if they're going to if it's a very close election. We'll look at different elections. There's a really good website called 270 to Win that we'll look at that looks at a lot of historical elections and really shows how those smaller states play a role in presidential elections. Go back to 2000 and ask Al Gore if he would have liked to have won his home state of Tennessee. And then the number of electors of each state is based on the state's congressional representation. So every state has at least 2 senators. And then the representation in House of Representatives is based on population. So you take the number of representatives. So in Virginia, we have 11 districts. We have 11 representatives in the House of Representatives. We have 2 senators. So 11 plus 2 is 13. Okay? And then it definitely favors all right, sorry about that. So the requirement for the majority vote to win Electoral College, you have to have 530 Electoral College votes. You have to have 270 votes to win. Favors the 2-party system. It's very, very hard for a third party to crack. And if we vote the Electoral College, if we split the votes through more than 2 ways, it'd be very difficult for anybody to be elected president. All right, that's the Electoral College system. I know it's very confusing. We will talk about it a lot more in class. Take care. 2.6. Bye.